Okay, hello everyone, welcome back. Well, today's topic is maybe a little bit different than some of the other topics that we've talked about, and this topic is really about giving away some money. And most of you have heard of, being philanthropic, and that's just really another word for, charitable giving, is another term that you'll hear kind of thrown around. Oh, bull, sorry. And the idea here is a couple of things, and I want to cover just two basic topics on this subject of charitable giving to kind of give you a sense for where I'm coming from. And the first one of those is deals a little bit more with what it does for your brain, and the other one is what it does for your taxes. So obviously two completely different approaches to this topic. And so what I want to do first is cover what this does for your brain. And the important thing is to actually get in the habit of giving. And it teaches your brain that there is plenty to go around, even when you think there isn't enough to go around. So, start when you think you don't have enough. And as counterintuitive as that seems, what this will do is it will actually train your brain that you actually do have enough, even if it's just giving away $1 or $10 when you think you need that for a movie ticket or something like that. When you really figure out that you can do without it. Getting your brain in the habit of understanding that there's plenty to go around, and this abundance mentality. That's kind of the other piece of it. Is very important as you get older and as you start to accumulate more wealth. The other reason, to starting young, there's kind of another key reason why starting young is a good thing, and that is that the dollars are smaller in most cases, right? So between the ages of 15 and 30, maybe giving away $1,000 a year is a big deal. Maybe finding a way to give away $100 a month or $200 a month is a big deal. But as you grow into your career or start to earn income in different ways, it'll feel a whole lot easier to give away $100,000 when that represents 5% of your net worth, for example. Just as it was easy to give away $1,000 when that was 5% of your net worth. The ratios are the same. What changes is the dollar amount. And, of course, when you start to get to dollar amounts that are, bigger like this, it kind of starts to feel a little bit scary to write those checks. But if you've been doing it at this level early in your life, then when you're actually able to have the opportunity to give away $100,000, which is still only 5% of your net worth, you know what that feels like, and you know that you survived, and you know that you can live with it. And so, starting young, when the dollar amount is lower, it's actually very important. You might say to yourself, well, my contribution is not really going to matter because it's so small. First of all, that's not the case, and charities of all kinds welcome gifts of any size from anyone. They see it as any sort of support is good support. And if it's a charity that you find a personal passion around, you're going to feel connected to that organization, and it's the fact that you're donating even at smaller levels is going to make a big difference as you grow. So the other thing I wanted to talk about is kind of the monetary reason for giving. Now, depending on how much you make, there are several tax deductions that are still available if you itemize on your tax return. And we're not going to go through all those now. But what the most important thing to realize is that most tax deductions go away or phase out once you make a certain amount of money or once you exceed a certain income. And those income levels differ based on which tax deduction we're talking about. Some disappear faster than others. But one of them that stays well into, in fact, I don't believe it ever goes away. I'd have to verify that for sure. But you get the benefit of charitable giving at high levels of income. And quite frankly, this is one of the reasons why you see wealthy people involved in charities and in charitable giving, because those contributions that they make to designated charities are tax deductible, even at high income levels. So even though you might not be able to write off your student loan interest, or even though you might not be able to write off certain medical expenses, even home interest, mortgage interest starts to go away after a certain period of time. Charitable giving is still one remaining way that you can, to the extent that you've got earned income, and that's important because we're talking about earned income. Of course, passive income and portfolio income, you have other opportunities to reduce your tax liability there. But if you're trying to reduce your tax liability on earned income, one of the main ways that you can do it is through charitable giving. And so there's a practical monetary reason why understanding giving and learning to give early in life can actually benefit your tax position later in, currently, but also as you start to earn more money, it will give you opportunities to help keep that tax bill as low as possible. Now, a couple of practical pieces of advice before I sign off on this video. The first one is you want to make sure that the charity that you're thinking about giving money to is legitimate. And most charities, although not all, but most charities are designated as what they call a 501c3 organization. Now, that's a provision in the IRS code. Actually, all of Section 501 and especially 501c deals with tax-exempt entities. Most charities that you'll run into are 501c3s. And again, there are others. There's 501c4s and 501c7s and so forth. But and all of them are legitimate, by the way. But the 501c3 is the most common. So always ask to see a. If you're not sure, some charities are painfully obvious. You're probably going to know that the United Way is a legitimate charity. The Red Cross and so forth. But if the charity is smaller, maybe if it's new, if it's one that you haven't heard of but you think is doing good work, ask to see a copy of their IRS determination letter, and that will tell you for sure if that nonprofit is a legitimate charity, and it really has to be a legitimate charity in order for you to claim a tax deduction. You can't just charitably give money to an organization and take a tax deduction for it. It actually has to be a legitimate nonprofit entity. So you always want to do that. A couple of other ways that you might do this, in addition to asking for them, every state, although I haven't looked at every state, Colorado certainly does, has an association of nonprofits. The website here in Colorado is coloradononprofits.org. And on that website, they have a listing of all the members. Now, of course, not every nonprofit in the state is a member of the Colorado Nonprofit Association, but hundreds of them are. And most likely, you can find one that is doing work in an area that you're interested in. There are also other places you can go. Community foundations are a good place to go look. And a lot of times what these community foundations do is they will actually have a list of nonprofits by type. So you might be interested in children, or you might be interested in animals, or fire relief. Pick whatever you're interested in. And sometimes these community foundations will have a list of charities that they've already verified are legitimate charities. And they can help you identify one if you don't already know one that you might consider forming a relationship with, and perhaps donating some money to, and perhaps even volunteering. The last thing I'll mention, and just because I'm running out of space down here, I'll throw it up here. But every organization that's a 501c3 is required to file a tax return every year called a Form 990. And those 990s they're publicly available. A lot of nonprofits offer them up on their websites, and they will tell you a lot of information about that nonprofit. Lots of info. It tells you who runs it, tells you what the executive director earns. It'll tell you what their mission is. It'll tell you something about their programs that they're working in and so forth. And so I recommend, if you're interested in learning a little bit more about a charity, go track down its 990. And the first place to do, if it's not on their website, is just to call them up and ask them for a copy. And they should happily provide you with one. And review that 990 for, again, information on compensation of the people who work there. It'll give you a list of their directors. Maybe you can see if you already know one of the directors on their board. It'll give you, of course, their revenue and expenses for the year, so you can get a sense for how big they are, and and a whole bunch of other things. So I would recommend doing that before you invest any money in giving to a particular charity. And of course, if they're filing a Form 990, you can almost rest assured that they're legitimately formed down here as a 501c3 or similar type of organization. So that's really what I wanted to cover today. I think, again, just to rehash, getting involved early is better. Start young when the dollars are smaller and they don't hurt quite as much. Understand that when you felt like it was okay to give $1,000, that was 5% of your net worth. That when you're able to give $100,000 at that same 5%, it might feel a little bit stressful, but you've proven to yourself that you can do it here, and so you can do it. You kind of get yourself ready for doing it here. Okay, that's it for this particular video on charitable giving.